The morning I realized my son had locked me out of my own life, the sky was painfully clear. It was November 10th. 10:47 a.m. I remember because I looked at my watch 3 times as if time itself might disagree with what my eyes were seeing. My key would not turn. I stood there on the porch of 847 Maple Street, the porch James built with his own hands in 1983, and I tried again. Slow, careful. Like maybe I had forgotten how keys worked. It slid in. It did not move. That was when I noticed the sticker near the handle. Small, white, clean, secure lock installations, Friday, November 8th, 3:15 p.m. Friday. The day after I left to help Ruth bury her sister, I didn't cry. That surprises people when I tell them. They expect tears, rage, a pounding on the door, but what I felt first wasn't pain, it was clarity. A thin, sharp clarity that slid into place the way my key no longer could. I walked back to my car, sat in the driver's seat, closed the door, and let the silence speak. My name is Elizabeth Bennett. I am 68 years old. My husband, James, died on April 3, 2023. He was reading the sports section when his heart stopped. Just like that, no warning, no dramatic final words, he left mid-sentence about the Minnesota Twins. Some endings are that ordinary. We bought this house in 1978 for $42,000, back when banks still pretended black families were bad investments, back when signatures meant survival. The deed was in my name alone after 2015. James insisted. "Lizzie," he'd said, pressing the papers toward me, "if anything ever happens to me, I want nobody questioning who this house belongs to." I didn't understand then how prophetic that was. For 10 years after he died, I lived quietly, peacefully. Then in September 2024, David called. My son is 42 years old, but when he needs something, his voice still carries the echo of 3-year-old David dragging a blanket behind him. "Mom, we're in a tight spot." Madison's consultancy collapsed, his firm downsized. They needed somewhere temporary, just a few months. I hesitated. I should have listened to that hesitation, but motherhood has a way of overriding instinct. They moved in with 4 suitcases and a television larger than my dining table. The house shifted immediately. Small things first. My wedding photo disappeared from the mantel. "We needed clean space," Madison said gently. James's armchair went to the garage. "It blocks the energy flow." I began shrinking inside my own rooms, stopped cooking meat because the smell bothered her, turned down my gospel music because it disrupted her meditation. Started asking before using my own living room. It happened so gradually I almost didn't notice. That's how erasure works. The financial questions began in October. "Do you have your documents in order?" Madison asked one night. "Will, power of attorney. Long-term care plans?" Her tone was polite. Her eyes were not. That night I overheard her whispering to David. "She won't be able to manage this house forever. We should think ahead." I lay in the my guest room, staring at the ceiling fan and finally understanding something terrible. They weren't worried about my future, they were planning it without me, and now here I was, locked out. They had waited until I left town, planned it, executed it, changed the locks at 3:15 p.m. Friday afternoon. I sat in my car and called David. Voicemail, called Madison, voicemail. I could see movement behind the curtains. They were home, they just weren't answering. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not broke, shifted. There is a difference. I slept in my car that night. Well, not slept, curled, endured. At 3 a.m., sitting under a streetlight, I remembered something James once told me. Love without boundaries is permission to be used. I hadn't believed him then. I believed him now. At 6 a.m. I called Frank Peterson, old friend, locksmith. He didn't ask questions, just said, "I'll be there in 30. When he handed me the new key, heavy brass, solid, I felt something like breath returning to my lungs. I opened my own door at 7:09 a.m. The air inside smelled wrong. Lavender candles and eucalyptus spray, but the floor still creaked where it always had. The house remembered me. I went to the spare room and found a box labeled Elizabeth Donate. My mother's Bible inside, my wedding album, my grandmother's quilt, packed, categorized, reduced. I didn't rage, I didn't shout. I simply began packing their things. Carefully, neatly. By 9:15 a.m., everything they owned was arranged on the front lawn. When they came home and found the door locked, Madison pounded first, then David. I opened it slowly. "You have 20 minutes, I said. The look on David's face, shock mixed with something like fear, will stay with me forever. "Mom, please, where was I supposed to go?" I asked him quietly. He had no answer. They left, and I locked the door again, this time from the inside. The legal steps came next. New will, new power of attorney, cognitive evaluation on record. I removed his name from every document, not out of revenge, out of protection. There's a difference. For weeks, I heard nothing. Then the voicemails began, then the letter. He was in therapy. He had separated from Madison. He was trying to understand when he stopped seeing me as a person and started seeing me as an obstacle. I didn't respond right away. Forgiveness rushed is just self-betrayal. Time passed. He showed up to fix the fence one Saturday, didn't ask to come inside, didn't ask for coffee, just worked. Silence between us wasn't hostile, it was rebuilding, brick by brick. Months later, my dining table filled again. Ruth on my right, David on my left. Neighbors, church friends, laughter, food that smelled like memory and survival. He helped me wash dishes afterward. "Thank you for letting me earn this," he said. I looked at him, not the boy he was, not the man who betrayed me, but the man trying to be better. "Keep earning it," I told him. "Healing is not a door you fling open. It is a lock you test slowly." Now when I turn the key at night, I feel the weight of it in my palm. Solid, certain. They tried to take my house, but what they really tried to take was my authority over my own life. They failed. Because at 68, I finally learned what should have been obvious all along. A home is not just walls and wood. It is boundaries, and love that survives only when respect lives inside it. When someone locks you out of your own life, you do not beg to be let back in. You change the lock, and you decide calmly, carefully who gets a key and who does not.